Okay, greetings everyone and welcome to the presentation previewing Chapter 2, Obscura. Chapter 2 is on Stanley Milgram and his famous or infamous experiment obedience. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is play you a very short video. It's about 2 minutes. And let you kind of see the experiment. I think this background knowledge will really help as you go into the chapter. Also, this is a picture of Stanley Milgram in case it helps you to picture him as you're watching this video. Remember, he's the mastermind behind everything.
A decade earlier, psychologist Stanley Milgram had also looked at how we respond to authority. In order to understand how people were induced to obey unjust regimes and participate in atrocities such as the Holocaust, he set up an experiment. Volunteers were told they were taking part in scientific research to improve memory.
Would you open those and tell me which of you is which, please? Teacher, learn.
Separated by a screen, the teacher would ask the learner questions in a word game and administer an electric shock when the answer was incorrect. He was told to increase the voltage with each wrong answer.
Cloud, horse, rock, house. Answer. Wrong. 150 volts. Answer, horse.
Experiment, that's all. Get me out of here. Get me out of here, please.
Continue, please. Go right on.
Let me out.
The experiment requires you continue, teacher. Please continue.
Participants didn't know that the learner was really an actor, and the so-called shocks harmless.
You're going to get a shot. 180 volts.
I can't stand the pain. Let me out of here.
Can't stand it. I'm not going to kill that man, eh? I mean, who's going to take the responsibility if anything happens to that gentleman? I'm responsible for anything that happens here. Continue, please. All right, next one. Slow. Walk, dance, truck, music.
Two-thirds of volunteers were prepared to administer a potentially fatal electric shock when encouraged to do so by what they perceived as a legitimate authority figure. In this case, a man in a white coat.
375 volts. I think something's happened to that fellow, man. I don't get no answer. He was hollering a low voltage. Can't you check in to see if he's all right, please?
Milgram's findings horrified America. They showed that decent American citizens were as capable of committing acts against their conscience as the Germans had been under the Nazis.
Okay, so again, that was just some background knowledge on Milgram and his experiments. Now, before you continue any more on this video, I'd actually like you to pause it. Just like the Skinner chapter, I have given you some background knowledge in the note-taking section of our assignments for this week. So I would like you to pause this presentation here, pay attention that you're at about 3.5 minutes, go to the Learning-Note-Taking folder, and then there's assignments using an article here called Obey at Any Cost. This is a summary of Milgram's experiment. It goes through the entire thing as well as the outcomes, the results, and a discussion of those. So you're going to learn how to take notes using outlining and Cornell notes. And so there is a video here for you to watch. I've also given you access to the operant conditioning textbook chapter because I refer to it in the video. And then here's the video, and then I always give you the PowerPoint without audio so that you have both to refer to, because this is the PowerPoint I use to make the video. Here's the cover or the title slide of the video. And then there's an assignment. And I think that if you go through Obey at Any Cost, that plus the video you just watched will be enough background knowledge for you then to get into Chapter 2, Obscura, and understand it much better. So again, pause the presentation here, please, and go to your note-taking folder and do your Obey at Any Cost assignments. Okay. Once you've done that, you're ready to begin reading Chapter 2. So I want you to open to page 32 in Opening Skinner's Box, and I want you to pause the presentation here and just read through these first 2 pages. I want you to be thinking, first, what do you notice about the way this chapter is written, and why do you think it's written that way? So pause the presentation here and go ahead and read pages 32 and 33. Okay, I have to admit to you that Chapter 2, Obscura, is one of my favorite chapters in this book, and I think it's because of the way Slater writes this beginning. So I'm going to just read the very beginning to you, and I want you just to listen. I know you just read it, but there's some wonderful things in here that I really want you to pay attention to. Possibly you are late. You are running down a small side street in New Haven, Connecticut. It is June 1961, and ahead of you loom the spires of the Yale Episcopalian Church. The street smells of summer, wet crushed flowers and spoiled fruit, and maybe, because of this, you already feel a little ill, in anticipation, because of the odor, something sweet and singed in the air. Now, I want to stop there just because what a wonderful beginning, right? She's made you late, and that brings your anxiety level up right away. I hope you noticed that she's using the second person point of view, you. She put you, the reader, right into the story, and she's making you feel anxious. We always feel anxious when we're late and we're running and we're on our way somewhere, and the smell, sweet and singed. Now, remember, Milgram's experiments was about shocking people, and so that singed has this idea of burning, which then connects to the experiment. Or perhaps you are not late. Perhaps you are the responsible type with minutes to spare, and so you are strolling, and there's no moon because it is raining, a summer rain darting down silver and sideways and making the streets smell strongly of sewage and cement. In this scenario as well, you already feel a little sick in anticipation, although of what you cannot say. There is that odor, something rotting in the air. Now, the word rotting is a terrible word, right? Things smell bad when they're rotting. And remember that this experiment was hugely controversial, so that word is so great. Another thing I want to point out is the alliteration in here. Oh, Slater is such a good writer. Did you notice when I was reading this sentence? Because it is raining, a summer rain darting down silver and sideways and making the streets smell strongly of sewage and cement. Now, hopefully because I over-enunciated all of them, you heard all the sounds, right? And it's up here too, something sweet and singed in the air. Now, I want you to think about how brilliant Slater is as a writer here, because all the sounds, what goes, right? You should be thinking snakes, which is this idea of evil, right? And so Milgram is certainly seen, and this experiment is certainly seen as such an evil thing. So I love that she incorporated all those sounds. Remember, that's called alliteration. You are carrying the ad. Just 2 weeks ago, you ripped it from its newsprint page. We will pay you $4 for 1 hour of your time, persons needed for a study of memory. And because it was Yale, and because of the cash, enough to buy a new blender to replace the one that went kaput, and because, well, it's all in the name of science, you said yes. Now you are on your way, on your way. The side streets are so sideways. They curve and tip, the bricks buckling, green weeds thrusting up between the pavers. You trip. You straighten yourself up. You come to the address, Lindsay Chittenden Hall, a gray door, and you are just about to open it when it opens itself and a man comes from the other side, his face all red, and could those be tears streaming down his cheeks? He hustles off into the shadows, and it's your turn. You go in. Oh, she's so good. I hope you enjoyed the way that this reads, and again, I asked you to think about, why are you put in this? Why are you made to endure Milgram's experiment? Okay. Now, I want you to read all the way to page 38, because that's where this narrative story ends of the experiment. So you're going to end right here where it says, "and a body built for the words of other men." So read all the way to page 38, and again reflect. Why is it told in second person? You. Why does Slater write in a way that makes you participate in Milgram's experiment. I'm going to pause. I want you to pause here and read all the way to page 38 and then come back. Okay, one of the things I want you to pay attention to is most people, when they hear about Milgram's experiments, right away go, not me, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have shocked that man all the way to lethal shocks. And the bottom line is, I think what Slater's trying to tell you is that, yeah, 65% of us would have done it. Everyone wants to think it wouldn't have been them, but research shows that over half of us would have done it. And so, again, I think that's one of the main reasons she put you in the experiment. I hope you enjoyed that part. I love that part. Okay, so now finish the chapter and complete your QQMS. Remember, write your questions and your quotes and explain them. List the major support. Write a thesis. Remember our guiding questions, right? Who are we? What makes us human? Remember, you're constantly thinking about that. And also, how does Slater want us to understand Milgram? Remember, in the Skinner chapter, we had 2 thesis statements. We won't always have that, but sometimes we will. And then here's your sentence starter in chapter 2 of Opening Skinner's Box. Slater writes about, and then you finish that sentence. So pause the presentation here. I want you to finish reading the chapter and complete your QQMS. Come back when you're done. Okay, so this week there's something new. You have a discussion board. I want you to pick 4 of these 9 questions to answer, but read all of them because there's some real gems here. This document is in the content folder for Chapter 2 of Skinner's Box. So you don't have to look at them here. You can certainly open that document if you'd like. Answer them thoroughly. Type your answers in Word or Google Docs first. Copy and paste them on the discussion board. The reason I ask you to do that is most students, when they type directly into the discussion board, don't write very good discussion board posts. And so when you write in Word or Google Docs, you're thinking more about being thorough. It seems to work for students to type there first. Now, I want you to copy and paste your work, right? Control-C, Control-V, copy and paste your work in the discussion board. Initial posts are due Wednesday night at 11:30, and then replies, you have to read all your classmates' replies and reply to at least 3 people by Friday at 11:30. Okay, there is grading for the discussion board. This is a graded assignment, so pay attention to this rubric. It's located in content if you need to look at it there, but it's also, there's a screenshot here. So I want you to notice the expectation of these posts, right? You want to be here. You want to exceed my expectations, which means you're seriously contemplating the readings. You're giving me original thought beyond the obvious. You have a well-developed assignment, fully addresses and develops all aspects of the task, in this case, the 4 questions. You have textual evidence, real-life connections, or outside sources. It's clear, articulate, correct grammar, and spelling. And then when you go back to your replies, you don't just say something like, oh, I liked your post, right? I always say those are kindergarten replies. When I taught kindergarten, and I would say, what do we think of this drawing? I like the pictures, right? Like, you can do better than that. And if you do that, that's obviously way down here. That does not meet my expectations. You need to do better. You can further the discussion, right? You can go out and post things, find some research to extend the discussion. All of that is a great idea. So pay attention to how you are being graded on this discussion board. Now it's time to fix your settings. On the discussion board, if you do not fix your settings here, when you reply to your classmates, it will include the original post. And then our discussion board looks messy and it's hard to see all the replies. We will all know who didn't watch this video or pay attention to this step. They will be very visible by the fact that they didn't do what I'm asking them to do. So please make sure you do this. Go to Communications, go to Discussions, okay, on D2L. Then I want you to click on the blue wheel for settings. It's right here. Okay, click there. Then you're unchecking. Make sure the box here is unchecked. Now, if this is not your first class at Normandale, it's possible another instructor asked you to do that, or you've already done it. Make sure it's unchecked because we do not want to include the original post in our reply. Make sure it's unchecked. Save your settings, okay? Make sure you do that. Then here is a list of your Chapter 2 assignments, your QQMS. Fix your settings on the discussion board. You'll lose points if you don't. Write your initial post on the discussion board by 11:30, and then at least 3 replies by Friday at 11:30. And that's it for Chapter 2. I hope you enjoy it.